I skipped buying my textbooks, risking failure in exams, just to save money for the bag she once admired. But when I placed it in front of her, she smiled and said another boy had already given her one. 3 months ago, I thought I was the luckiest guy alive. Sarah had been my girlfriend for 2 years, and I was planning to propose after graduation. She was everything I wanted. Smart, funny, beautiful, and somehow still with a broke college student like me. I remember the exact moment I saw her staring at that designer bag in the mall window. Her eyes lit like a kid seeing Christmas morning. "It's gorgeous," she whispered, pressing her palm against the glass. "But way too expensive for someone like me." That's when I made the decision that would destroy my. I had $800 saved for textbooks. Organic chemistry, advanced calculus, physics, books I desperately needed for my pre-med program. But seeing Sarah's face, imagining how she'd react when I surprised her, I couldn't think straight. I walked into that store and bought the bag with money meant for my education. For 3 weeks, I attended classes without textbooks. I borrowed from classmates who grew tired of sharing. I took photos of pages with my cracked phone screen. My grades started slipping. My study group kicked me out because I couldn't contribute. But every time doubt crept in, I pictured Sarah's reaction to my surprise. The bag sat hidden in my dorm closet, like a secret treasure. I'd touch the expensive leather and imagine her saying yes to a future proposal. This wasn't just a gift. It was proof that I'd do anything for her. Last Tuesday, Sarah seemed distant during our coffee date. She kept checking her phone, smiling at messages I couldn't see. When I asked who was texting, she said, "Just friends," and quickly put the phone away. That should have been my first warning. Thursday, she canceled our dinner plans. "Family stuff," she said, but I saw her Instagram story hours later. She was at that new restaurant downtown. The one we'd talked about going to together. She wasn't with family. Friday, I decided to surprise her with the bag. Maybe it would fix whatever was wrong between us. Maybe she'd see how much I loved her, and everything would go back to normal. I knocked on her apartment door, heart pounding, the gift bag trembling in my hands. When Sarah opened the door, her face went white. Not the good kind of white, the guilty kind. "Hey," she said, not moving aside to let me in. "What are doing here?" I held the bag, grinning like an surprise. "Remember that bag loved at the mall? I got it for point." That's when I heard the male voice from inside her apartment. "Who's at the door?" My stomach dropped into my shoes. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Not happy tears. Guilt tears. "Oh no, please don't do this now." "Do what?" But I already knew. The pieces were falling into place like a puzzle I didn't want to solve. A guy appeared behind her. Tall, confident, wearing clothes that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. He looked at the gift bag in my hands, then at Sarah, then back at me. "Is this him?" he asked Sarah. Him. Like I was a problem to be solved. "I can explain." Sarah started, but I wasn't listening anymore. My eyes were fixed on her shoulder, where an identical designer bag hung casually. The exact same bag I'd sacrificed my education to buy. "Already have one," I whispered. "Brandon got it for me last week," she said, each word like a I wanted to tell but. Last week. The timeline crashed over me. While I was struggling through classes without textbooks. While I was planning with surprise. She was already with someone else. Already receiving gifts I couldn't afford from someone who could. "I think, should go," Brandon said, stepping protectively in front of Sarah. I stood there holding a $600 bag that was now, staring at the girl I'd given everything to, realizing I'd never really had her at all. "How long?" I asked. Sarah couldn't meet my eyes. "Does it matter?" 3 months. Brandon answered for her. "Since right after New Year's." 3 months. Our entire relationship had been a lie for 3 months. Every plan we made, every night she said she had to study instead of seeing me. She was with him. I set the bag down on her doorstep. My hands were shaking. "Keep it," I said. "Or give it away. I don't care." Walking back to my dorm I did the math, fake $600 for a bag she didn't need. Then $800 I'd never get back for textbooks I'd never buy. A semester derailed for a relationship that was already over before I'd even tried to save it. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "I'm sorry. Deserve better than how this happened." I typed and deleted a dozen responses. Finally, I wrote back, "Alright. I did deserve better." That night, I failed my organic chemistry midterm. Without the textbook, I couldn't understand half the material. I stared at the F marked in red at the top of my paper, and realized this was just the beginning. Sarah had her bag from Brandon. I had nothing but the crushing weight of my own decisions and the sinking feeling that I'd thrown away my future for someone who'd already thrown away ours. The worst part wasn't losing Sarah. The worst part was realizing I'd lost first. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in how one decision can create a domino effect that destroys everything I've worked for. First, my grades crashed harder than I thought possible. Without textbooks, I was drowning in every class. My physics professor called me to his office after I bombed another quiz. "What happened to?" Professor Martinez asked, genuinely concerned. "Started the semester as one of my top students." I couldn't tell him I'd blown my textbook money on a cheating girlfriend. How pathetic would that sound? So I made some excuse about financial hardship, which wasn't entirely a lie anymore. "There are programs that can help," he said. "Student aid, book lending programs. Why didn't reach out sooner?" Because I thought a designer bag would fix a relationship that was already broken. Because I prioritized someone else's happiness over my own future. "I'll look into it," I lied. We both knew it was too late for this semester. My roommate Jake started avoiding me. I'd been moping around our dorm room for days, and apparently my negative energy was affecting his sleep. He started staying at his girlfriend's place most nights. Even my roommate was escaping from my mess. Then Sarah started posting on social media pictures with Brandon at expensive restaurants, concert tickets to shows I couldn't afford, weekend trips to places I'd only dreamed of taking her. Each post felt like she was rubbing my face in what I'd lost, and what I'd never been able to give her. The comments under her photos were brutal. Our mutual friends knew we'd been together for 2 years. They saw her suddenly with this new guy, and put the pieces together. "Thought she was with that pre-med guy," commented Jessica. "Upgrade," replied Sarah's roommate with crying, laughing emojis. "Upgrade. Like I was defective merchandise she'd finally replaced with something better." But the worst part wasn't the social media humiliation. It was what happened when I ran into Sarah's little sister Emma at the campus coffee shop. Emma was a freshman, sweet kid who'd always looked to me. She wanted to be a doctor too, and I'd helped her with chemistry homework during family dinners at Sarah's house. Dinners where I'd been treated like part of the family, where her parents had talked about how proud they were that Sarah had found such a responsible young man. "Hey," Emma said, lighting, when she saw me. "I've been meaning to ask, are and Sarah planning something special for anniversary next month? She's been so secretive lately." My throat closed. Sarah hadn't told her family about Brandon yet. In Emma's world, we were still the happy couple her sister brought home for holidays. "We're not together anymore," I managed to say. Emma's face fell. "When?" Sarah didn't say anything. "A couple weeks ago." I couldn't look at her. "She's with someone else now." "Someone else?" Emma's voice got small. "But guys were perfect together. We're going to be a doctor. And she was so proud of, and..." That's when I started crying. Right there in the middle of the coffee shop, in front of this kid who still believed in the version of me that had existed before I'd made the stupidest decision of my. Emma hugged me, and I felt like the biggest in the world. Here was this girl comforting me, when I should have been the adult in this situation. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Loved each other so much. Sometimes love isn't enough." I said, which was the biggest lie I'd told yet. Love might have been enough if I'd been smart enough to see that Sarah's love had already ended months ago. That night, I called my parents for the first time since the breakup. I'd been putting it off because I knew they'd ask about Sarah. My mom adored her, and my dad always said he hoped I'd be smart enough to marry that. "How's Sarah?" Mom asked within the first 5 minutes, right on schedule. Broke silence. Then, "Oh honey, what happened? Two seemed so happy at Christmas." At Christmas, Sarah had been cheating on me for 3 weeks. We'd exchanged gifts under my parents' tree, and she'd me under the mistletoe while secretly texting another guy. The memory made me sick. It just didn't work out. These things happen. Dad said, though I could hear the disappointment in his voice. Young. Focus on studies. Medicine is a demanding field. If only he knew I was failing my pre-med courses because sacrificed my textbooks for a relationship that was already over. After we hung, I sat in my dorm room staring at my failing grades online. Chemistry F, physics D, calculus D, FLA. My GPA had dropped from 3.8 to 2.1 in less than a month. Medical students with GPAs above 3.5. They want responsible, dedicated people who make smart decisions under pressure. They don't want idiots who their textbook money on cheating girlfriends. I opened my laptop and started researching what it would take to recover from this disaster. Grade replacement policies. Summer school options. The possibility of taking an extra year to graduate. Every solution cost money I didn't have and time I'd lost. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Hear it and Sarah broke. Coffee tomorrow, Ashley. Ashley from my biology study group. Pretty, smart, always friendly. Under different circumstances, I might have been flattered. But I knew why she was reaching out now. Word was spreading that I was single, and suddenly, I was available again. The cruel irony wasn't lost on me. When I'd been devoted to Sarah, other girls had noticed but kept their distance. Now that I'd proven to be the kind of guy who could fail spectacularly in a relationship, they were interested. I deleted Ashley's message without responding. I didn't deserve kindness, and I definitely didn't deserve a second chance with someone new when I'd my first chance so completely. That night, I dreamed about the moment I'd walked into that store to buy Sarah's bag. In the dream, I turned around and walked out instead. I bought my textbooks, aced my exams, and graduated with honors. Dream. Sarah was disappointed when I did an expensive gift, but dream. Me was strong enough to put my future first. I woke knowing that version of me was gone forever. The responsible pre-med student who'd had his whole planned the moment I'd chosen someone else's temporary happiness over my own permanent success. Now I was just another college dropout in the making, and everyone could see it coming except me. 6 months later, I'm writing this from my childhood bedroom, surrounded by acceptance letters to medical schools that I'll never be able to use. The final domino fell during finals week. I walked into my organic chemistry exam, knowing I was about to fail spectacularly. Without textbooks, without proper study materials, without the foundation I'd sacrificed for a bag. I sat there for 3 hours writing answers I knew were wrong. When grades came out, it was worse than I'd imagined. 3 Fs and a D FLA. My cumulative GPA dropped to 1.9. Academic probation turned into academic dismissal. 4 years of perfect grades in high school. 2 years of Dean's List in college, all erased by 1 semester of catastrophic decisions. The meeting with my academic advisor was brutal. I've never seen a student fall this far this fast. Dr. Peterson said, looking genuinely puzzled. First 2 years were exemplary. What changed? I could have told him the truth. Could have explained how I'd prioritized the wrong person's happiness. Could have asked for help, for understanding, for a second chance. Instead, I just sat there silent, accepting my fate like the coward I'd become. We'll need to sit out at least a year. He continued. Work on. Figure out what went wrong. If can bring grades, significantly, might be able to reapply. Might. The word every pre-med student dreads. Moving back home was a special kind of humiliation. My parents had spent years bragging neighbors about their son the future doctor. Dad had told his coworkers about my MCAT prep courses. Mom had already started planning my medical school graduation party. Now I was unpacking my failure into the same room where I'd once studied for the S8s. Surrounded by participation trophies and honor roll certificates that silly felt like lies. We still believe in, Mom said, helping me clothes I'd worn to classes I'd failed. This is just a setback. But we all knew it was more than that. Medical schools don't just look at final GPA. They want to see consistency, responsibility, the ability to handle pressure. They want students who make good decisions when it matters most. I'd proven I was exactly the opposite of what they wanted. The job search was a mother nightmare. Some college doesn't get far when are competing with high school graduates, who at least finished what they started. I ended at a local restaurant, washing dishes for minimum wage while my former classmates prepared for their senior year. Jake texted me once. Heard dropped out. That sucks. Man. Even my ex-roommate's pity felt patronizing. The worst part was running into people from home who knew me before. Mrs. Henderson from down the street stopped me at the grocery store. How's medical school preparation going? She asked with genuine interest. Mother is so proud. I'm taking some time off. I lied. Smart boy. Don't lied, if only she knew I'd already burned everything down. 3 months into my exile, I saw the Facebook post that broke what was left of me. Sarah and Brandon were engaged. The ring was massive, probably cost more than my entire college fund. Her smile was radiant, genuine in a way I'd never been able to inspire. The comments were full of congratulations. Her family, our old friends, everyone celebrating her happiness with the man who could actually provide for her. Who didn't make her choose between love and financial security. Emma commented. So happy for. I always knew fine person. I'd been replaced so completely, that even her little sister had rewritten history. I'd never been Sarah's person. I'd just been the placeholder until her reel could begin. That night, I did something I hadn't done since the breakup. I looked the cost of the textbooks I'd skipped buying. More to $743.50 total. Less than the bag that was probably gathering dust in Sarah's closet now. $700. That's what my medical career had been worth to me. That's the price I'd put on 4 years of pre-med courses, MSAT prep, research internships, and every dream I'd had since I was 12 years old, and decided I wanted to help people. I started calculating other costs. The semester I'd have to repeat. The 15 Zallos and intuition and fees. The year of medical school applications I've missed priceless. The respect of my professors, my family, Zan impossible to quantify. The bag had cost $600. My stupidity had cost me everything. I wrote Sarah a letter that night. Not to send, just to get the words out of my head. I told her about failing out of school. About moving back home. About washing dishes while she planned her wedding. About how her happiness with Brandon proved I'd never been in enough and never would have been. Then I deleted it. She didn't owe me anything. Especially not forgiveness or guilt. I'd made my choice, and she'd made hers. The difference was that her choice led to engagement rings and wedding plans, while mine led to academic dismissal and minimum wage jobs. Last week, I got an email from the university. They were offering me a path back. Community college courses to rebuild my GPA, followed by a probationary readmission if I could prove I'd changed. I stared at that email for hours. 2 more years of prerequisites. 3 more years of college if I was lucky. 4 years of medical school after that. I'd be 35 before I could even start residency. Competing with students, a decade younger, who'd never made my mistakes. I haven't responded yet. Part of me wonders if I deserve a second chance. If I've learned enough, from this disaster, to avoid making the same mistakes again. But every time I think about going back, I remember a moment on Sarah's doorstep. Standing there with a gift she didn't need. Realizing I'd sacrificed everything. For someone who'd already moved on. The look in her eyes wasn't love or guilt, or even pity. It was relief that she wouldn't have to pretend anymore. Tonight, I'm supposed to work a double shift at the restaurant. Tomorrow, I'll probably do the same. Next week, Sarah will probably post more wedding planning photos, while I scrape food off plates, and wonder if I'll ever stop paying for the worst decision of my. The textbooks, I should have bought are probably in a landfill by now, replaced by newer editions for students smart enough to prioritize their education, over doomed relationships. And somewhere in a closet, there's a $600 designer bag that destroyed a future, given by a fool to a girl who already belonged to someone else. Sometimes the most expensive gifts are the ones that cost everything, and the person receiving them never even asked for the sacrifice.